I am not torturing him. He is in my empty basement making noises right now. Hello, this is Sarah soiledplant and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my top 5 and bottom 5. I do videos like this on occasion. I can link the other examples of this video down below, but I just kind of go over what sort of my top plants that I'm enjoying right now and some of the ones that I'm not quite enjoying or are acting up, things like that. The cats are feeling very lovey-dovey right now, so if you hear any mewing or anything, I apologize. They just crave attention whenever I sit down to film because they hear my voice and they assume that means I'm talking to them, and so they want to talk to me back and they want to interact with me. I'll try to keep their disruptions at a minimum. Here's a prime example of cat interruptions. I've got Maggie here who usually doesn't even want to be on my lap, much less get, all these pet downs by me, but she's all of a sudden feeling mom right now. And Ash is at my feet, rubbing my feet. We're working on it, we're working. Cat number 2. I have not even shown a plant yet, and you are on my lap, and I am covered in cat hair. Anyway, I'm gonna hop into my plant. Maybe he'll stay, maybe he'll leave, we will see. The first plant I'd like to show you is my Calathea lancifolia, also known as a rattlesnake. This one used to actually be on the bottom list before because I had trouble getting it to grow. It was fine sustaining itself, but it just wasn't, reproducing, growing new leaves, all the things that plants are usually doing, it wasn't doing that. So I was trying to figure it all out, put it in different areas, and it never seemed to be happy. After I got my IKEA cabinets, I decided to put a lot of my smaller Calathea into that IKEA cabinet, and this has taken off since then. The leaves, like these are the size of the leaves that I got, maybe 3 inches long, and this thing here is a monster compared to it. It is getting light from the same lights I use in my IKEA cabinet. The lights I use are always listed in the description down below, but those are the only lights I have. It's really not getting any other light besides that, and it's in my IKEA cabinet, which keeps the humidity up, and it's loving it. I remember hearing about this plant that it doesn't like light and it prefers to be in a darker space and it just grows slowly. I have found that not to be the case at all. It loves light, and I thought maybe with all the light I'd lose the purple backs that it's getting, but the backs are completely intact. There's no little striping on it that I sometimes get. It's not light like these ones. Like I had a couple of leaves grow with no purple on the back at all, but the new ones that are coming up have bright purple backs. The leaves are gigantic. It's growing more rapidly. It's just loving it in there, and I plan on keeping it in there for a very long time. This one had a major turnaround, and I'm so excited for it. It's a lovely plant, and I'm really happy with it. I've been looking for a good specimen for a while, and I ordered this one online, and it was a little smaller than I wanted it to be. And I thought, man, I should have bought a big, gigantic one because they don't grow super fast, and now this one's doing pretty well. It's not quite at the point where it needs to be potted in a bigger size pot yet, but it's still doing really well, and I'm really happy with it. The next plant I'd like to show you is my Anthurium warwalkianum. I bought this a little bit ago. It was always a big wish list plant, and it's, nice and small. It's nothing gigantic yet. This leaf that's on the way out here, it just doesn't look cute. This is the second oldest leaf and the first leaf I produced on the plant since getting it in my possession. Then I got this leaf, which is doing lovely, remarkably well. It is pointing straight up, but otherwise it's a lovely, lovely leaf and a little bit bigger than this one. As you can tell, it's a couple inches longer, but a couple weeks ago, I got a brand new leaf. It had been a while since I got a new leaf, and I finally got a new one, and it was hardening off and growing because Anthurium, when they first sprout the leaf, they're smaller and then they grow into their final shape. And this one is not fully hardened off yet. Look at how gorgeous and perfect this leaf is. This is just perfection in a leaf. I am so excited about it. Part of me is like, oh no, do I put it in a bigger pot? It's gonna be too big for this pot already. Hopefully I have it on a little shelf so it will have room to, dangle further down than the pot allows, so that's fine. It will be okay if it hardens off a little bit more. And the reason I can tell that it's not fully hardened off is because when I bend this one, it's got a spring to it, whereas this one is not quite springy yet, and it has a lot more flexibility, so it has a little bit more to go before it finally reaches its final form, and I'm so excited about it. It is gigantic compared to this leaf here. I will pull it down so you can see kind of the difference already. It's a little bit bigger. It's nice. It has like no imperfections on it. There's no blisters on it. There's like a tiny, teeny tiny little dot on it, but holy cow. I am so nervous about anything anthurium. I almost killed the first anthurium I ever bought. It is alive and it's doing okay, but this is the second anthurium I've ever bought. And I was so nervous because I love this plant. It was a wish list plant. It was expensive for what you got, you know, a little tiny plant like this. But I am so excited that this leaf is doing well and this leaf is doing well, because that was after it acclimated and produced, you know, leaves after it had been in my possession for a little while. So very excited about that. I saw the like tiny baby leaf come out when my parents were visiting, and then it had been a couple of weeks and it just grew into this amazing specimen, and I love it so much. I'm so excited it's doing well. So definitely a top plant for right now. The next plant on my list I will have on my lap here, because I need to get as much of this in frame as possible, is covered in cat hair. It also desperately needs a water, so I will water it right after this video. But this right here is my Ficus Tinicki. It has a nice sizable look to it. This is an absolutely gorgeous plant. I love what the leaves look like. I love the patterning, the color, how it grows, the big, nice paddly leaves that stick out. Ficus like this, the rubber plant variety, they get really big if you let them get really big, and I'm hoping this one gets really big. I've got this in a nice west-facing window with a lot of direct light, so it's loving it there, and I've grown several leaves having it in that location, and it seems very, very happy, aside from, you know, me needing to water it. My only real issue with this plant is that it is basically one stalk, this whole section here. It does have a secondary sort of sprouting off point right here, and it's doing all right. It's figuring itself out, but I would like it to have more branches. So I do plan on doing notching to this plant in the kind of mid-springtime, so that it has plenty of time to recover and get plenty of light and all those things, and plenty of water to recoup itself. But there's a couple of videos I saw on YouTube about how to notch ficus specifically in order to get it to branch off and be a lot thicker and fuller, so that it can, support itself a little bit better, as opposed to, one big stalk that can, get broken, things like that. Because I don't want this to break, because it might be top heavy or anything like that. So I do plan on notching it, but I am just so happy with this plant. It's so pretty, and every time I see it, it really stands out from the rest of my plants. Nothing else quite looks like this, and I'm really, really excited to have it, and I love it. But yes, it desperately needs water right now. You can tell by the curling leaves that it needs water, so I will definitely water it after I'm done filming. But that is the Ficus Tinicki. I actually touched on this plant in my last video, so I won't harp on it too long. But this is my Philodendron verrucosum, and it is doing the best it's ever done in my care since I've put it in my humidity cabinet. That seems to be a theme with some of these plants, is that they do really well with a lot of light and high humidity, go figure. But this one is doing so much better than I ever thought I would be able to get this plant to kind of grow, if that makes any sense. It has 3 different plants, and each of them is producing a leaf right now. I've got one down here, I've got one here, and then one at the very tippy top up there. It is just so happy, and it's throwing beautiful color. I love the pattern on it. It is just like my wildest dreams in a plant, and I can't believe it's finally doing okay. I keep having them snap on me when they grow and they don't have the support, they snap. I've even tried giving support and it still snaps, so I might encounter that in the future, but for right now, it is very happy and doing very well. Love the colors, it's actually growing for me. I don't have bugs, knock on wood. It's just a very happy plant, and I'm so in love with it, digging it right now. The next plant on my list, or I guess plants since I do have 2 of them, is my Monstera standaleiana. This is another one that was in a bottom at one point and is now in the top. I have finally figured out how to make these happy, and when I say figured out, I mean I propagated them, put them in soil, and they haven't gotten mad at me. So I don't know, maybe these are actually really easy and just the starter plant I started with was just not having it, And so when I cut it up and got propagations from it, it finally decided to be happy with me, and I think that's what happened here. So these are Monstera standaleyana albos. When I first got them, I was like, there is no white on these. I don't know if they're actually albos. Standard standaleyanas do have little speckles in it, much like this plant, where it does have little tiny marks on it, but it's not like super, super white. But this plant, on the other hand, has beautiful variegation on it, especially these newer ones here. They are just throwing so much white. So in addition to those leaves doing fantastic, I also have another little plant in here. There's 3 plants in here total, but there's one little plant that threw almost entirely white, so ignore the brown because it's starting to rot finally. But this little plant right here has just a ton of white. Obviously it's not growing as quickly as the other ones because it doesn't have as much green in order to grow, but it is just beautiful. It keeps throwing all white leaves and I don't really know how to stop it doing that. But I'm also like, it's doing okay, so I'm just gonna let it keep throwing whatever it feels like throwing. But these ones right here on this side with the nice white is one plant, and then I've got another plant in the middle here, and the second newest leaf got a good amount of white on it too. So I'm just thrilled at how wonderful this plant in particular is doing. The other one is obviously growing and beautiful and has a good amount of white on it. For a little while, I actually had 4 of these and ended up selling the other 2 because these 2 had the most white variegation on them and I wanted to see how they did, and it is just impressing me so much how well these are doing. And I don't want to jinx it because these started from a plant that hated me and it just kept throwing runner after runner after runner, and I got them to form an actual plant. So it seems very, very happy and I'm going to keep it that way. Now, jumping into the bottom 5, I want to preface this by saying I don't hate any of these plants. These are plants that I bought because I like them and I've kept them because I've liked them. In this case, I don't plan on getting rid of any of these plants. They have just all been misbehaving lately, and so they're frustrating me for one reason or another. Let's start with my absolutely show-stopping oxalis. This is a favorite of many people who come to my house and look at my collection. They love it because it's purple and it's so different from everything else. I love it, I'm still thrilled with it, and I'm gonna keep it forever. The thing I don't like about this is it started doing this, where it comes out and he's got these speckles on the leaves, and I don't know where that comes from. It almost looks like, it's probably easier to show you if I just pull one off. They've been doing this on the leaves where there is kind of whitish, kind of light greeny, almost like beige color spots. They came up with these sort of speckles to them, and I have no idea where that came from. So I'm not sure exactly what went wrong there. For a couple of weeks, I had maybe like 1/3 to 1/4 of the plant with that type of pattern, and it seems to not be recurring. I haven't noticed it in a little while in new leaves that come out, so I think I've kind of solved the problem, unintentionally solved the problem, but it was kind of disturbing, so I put it in the bottom for that reason. The next plant I'd like to talk about is my Philodendron gloriosum. I took these cuttings a few months ago. I've got a nice, oh, I'm sorry, honey. I'm gonna bump your face, I'm so sorry. I took these cuttings and they're rooting well, and I'm gonna be potting them up soon. But the base of the plant does not seem to be doing as well. It's got this one leaf that looks like it's coming out, but it has looked exactly like this for 2 months. It has not moved, it has not grown very much, and it's just kind of there. And I think that's kind of indicative of this type of plant. I know when I took cuttings from my Plomenii, it took them forever to go from a rooted stump to a plant again. It took a long time, and it did really, really well. Once it decided to produce a leaf, it was a beautiful leaf. So I'm hoping this is what's going on here, but I have been looking at this stump every day for months, and it just makes me mad. So it has made it to the bottom of the list. The cuttings are doing pretty well. Aside from the ones in that pot, I have a handful of others that are still not rooted, but don't seem to be dying. It's very, I don't understand how a plant could be a propagation cutting in water for months and not grow roots and not die. It's just fascinating to me. I don't know how that works, but they're not dead yet, so I'm gonna let them keep rooting in water, see how they do. But those ones seem to be doing really well, so I have no idea. This is another one that I mentioned in my philodendron video last week. but it's my Florida Ghost, my Philodendron Florida Ghost. I am really looking forward to this finally doing what I want it to, but I'm giving it better light now. We'll see how it does. I'm not expecting this next leaf to be super white when it comes out, because every time these leaves come out, they basically have the speckled, you know, frostiness instead of the pure white. And so I'm hoping with better light, it'll start producing white leaves instead of kind of the speckly ones. I'm hoping better light will solve the speckly leaf problem. The other thing I don't like about this plant right now is it is throwing floral nectaries a lot, and it's got a kind of rough texture to the stems where it's got some bumps and it's not exactly easy to clean, and it just attracts all the cat hair to it. So I have to clean this just to get the cat hair off. For some reason, my other plants with floral nectaries do not attract cat hair the way this one does. And I've put it in a room now where the cats are not allowed to go, so hopefully that'll also solve that problem. So it's like a 2-for-1, where it's not gonna be covered in cat hair and it's gonna get more light, but it'll still have the floral nectaries. So 2 out of 3 isn't bad, but I keep getting leaves that are not white. And I love the shape of it. I love the look of the plant itself. I really, really want white leaves and get the full effect of having a Florida Ghost. So, but yeah, that is why it's on the bottom of the list. The next one on my bottom list is the Peperomia Peppermill. I'm just gonna pull off dead leaves while I'm talking to you because I feel like this thing produces leaves insanely frequently, but this also loses, you know, growth really, really quickly. It's kind of like the Oxalis in that way, where every time I walk by it, there's more dead leaves on it. But the reason it's on the bottom of the list is because I can't quite seem to figure out how to get that beautiful fluorescent color back. I'm sure it has something to do with lighting, but it's not growing the cutest, which was always my concern with Peperomia. They kind of do their own thing and don't really follow any sort of pattern to like make it look cute. The other thing about this plant is I feel like it is always underwatered and it's very compacted in the soil, and I'm not sure how to prevent that from happening. I do bottom water it to make sure the water actually saturates the soil, but it seems to never quite loosen up, and I don't know if this is a situation where I just need to repot it into different soil now that it's compacted, but I can't seem to get it uncompacted, which other times I have been able to do that. And of course this thing flowers. I've had it flower probably 3 times now. I've got so many new flowers coming up. There's one here, one here, one here, another one over here. There's just like probably almost 10 total on this plant, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or if that's the plant crying out for help because I'm killing it. I'm not 100% sure, but it is flowering and it keeps producing leaves, so I'm not thinking I'm killing it. I just don't think I'm growing it the way it should be grown. I've been trying to keep it on the drier side, but I feel like I'm kind of taking that to an extreme and it's starting to, you know, not be happy with me. I need to figure this out. This plant just stresses me out because it looks so unhappy. I haven't really had the energy or time to figure it out to see if I can make it better, but it's on the bottom because it's just a very stressful plant to look at. So that's why it's on this list. The next and last plant that is on my bottoms list is only here because it is going through some rehab right now, and that is my Jade Pothos. This one used to be a hanging plant in my bedroom. It was beautiful. It had such long tendrils. It was one of the few plants in my bedroom, so I loved it because I could see all the beautiful greenery when I'm in my room. But unfortunately, it got pot bound, and last summer I decided to cut it back in order to keep the plant in that pot. I didn't have a pot that was bigger, and it did okay. It didn't, because it's a pothos, it rebounded just fine, but then it became pot bound again in that pot. And that poor plant in there was just suffocating, and no matter how many times I watered it, it just looked so sad. The entire top section was just bald, all of the leaves fell off, but the leaves in the bottom were lush and beautiful. So what I decided to do was take cuttings and plant them up in a pot. I did not root these first. I literally just stuck them straight in the pot and decided to try and root them that way because, once again, pothos, they're much easier than most plants, and I feel less stressed about putting these directly into soil versus some other plants where I'd rather put it in moss, put it in perlite, put it in water, but this one I put right in the soil, and it is rebounding, and it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll grow, but the idea that I don't have this plant in my bedroom anymore makes me sad. I'm gonna take this leaf off because it's clearly dead. So this plant in particular in this pot is doing okay. I also have some more cuttings. I will probably take a third batch of cuttings before finally just getting rid of that plant altogether. I'm just really sad that it's not in my bedroom anymore. I loved having a plant in there, a nice hanging plant. And maybe this one will graduate to where it can be sort of in that section of my house and hang it from the hook that's in my bedroom. But until that point, it is going to sit on the shelf and hopefully recuperate and continue growing. But I'm really sad that I don't have this in my bedroom anymore, and that the original plant just could not stop getting pot bound. It just wasn't having it, too many roots, so I'm just gonna start over. And that's the beauty of pothos, especially if they are struggling and they look like they're about to die. Take all the cuttings in the world because they will grow back, and they're super hardy plants. So we'll start over and make new roots. And we got Maggie back to close out the video. How nice of you, sweetheart. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of me and Miss Maggie May, you can subscribe down below. I post videos on Thursdays. And thank you so much for watching this video. I will catch you on the next one. Bye! You are just a stage 4 clinger right now, aren't you? Only when I'm working. Only when I'm working.